We all have challenges in life: sadness, broken relationships, anger, bullying, grief, and isolation. But there is hope. Together, we can learn how to bring back joy, re engage with life, restore relationships, and to be alone without being lonely. Welcome to Psychology Talks.
We have Dr. Joy Malden with us here today. She is a licensed clinical psychologist, and she has a specialty in working with children and families. So I am super excited about her being here with us today. She is going to give us a lot of great information about parenting, about how to do it well, and things that just as parents we need to know. So Joy, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
So what are the top 3 things that you can think of that every parent should know?
I love that question because it's so concise, right? Like that's what we want as parents. It's like these little tips that we can like just stuff away in our pocket and think, I'm doing this, I'm doing it right. Well, first of all, congratulations, you're parents.
Yeah.
And this is a huge, huge decision and a huge task. And so I think the one thing is as you're raising these people, know that there's many people who've come before you and many people who will come after you, and you are doing the best you can do. And so have a team of people. So use your partner, use your family, use your community, use your pediatrician, use your teachers, and get resourced. But also never doubt your intuition, because you're a parent and you created these people, or you adopted these people, or you fostered these people. And that in itself is a gift and a talent. So that's one thing that I feel like parents should know, is that, okay, you've made the choice, now let's figure out the rest.
Something very important that I think I heard you say in there is that these people, so recognizing that they are people.
Yeah.
That children are not another species.
Yeah.
They are people, and they have feelings, and they have thoughts, and they have hopes and aspirations, and they might be different than ours.
Yes, I love that. Like, when we are pregnant and we have all these ideas, or all these ideas are placed on the mother and the child, like, oh, are they going to be a teacher like you? Or are they going to be a psychologist like you? Are they going, we don't know. They could be the next president. They could also be a greeter at Walmart. They also could be a teacher, a dancer. They may not like peas. They could get a tattoo of a skull with your name on it. We have no idea what these people are going to do, but they are our people.
That's right.
And we get the pleasure of teaching them, learning about them, molding them, and they also mold us. Because at the beginning, neurologically, when a mother has a child, her brain is changed forever. So that is, you are now completely different than you were before.
That's right. And I think that's an important point, to recognize how our children impact our lives.
Yes.
And so there's lots of things, as a parent myself, there are a lot of things that come with having a child. There are a lot of changes that happen in a person's life, and your entire environment. And so I know we're going to talk a little bit later about environments, but recognizing how special it is and I love what you said earlier about these are our people.
Yeah.
And so they're part of our community, they're part of our tribe, they're part of our family.
Yes.
And that can mean different things for every person, but recognizing that they are special, that they're individual, and that there are special things about them that we are now, talked about responsibility earlier, these are the things now that we get the joy and sometimes the hardship of helping them to recognize and grow with and grow through and grow into.
Yes. And I think if they're biologically yours, know that you are the tree and they are the apple. And the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So they are all your good and all your bad. And you often will see yourself standing there right in front of you like, oh my gosh, how did that happen? How did you get that trait? Or, oh, I hate that trait about my partner. How do they have that trait? Or you'll see the grandparent, you're like, my kid does that same thing. It is creepy. So I just think love what you have, love yourself through the process, because often the message I get from parents when they come see me in my private practice, in the medical settings that I've got to work at the schools I've taught at, lectures, whatever, they always come up and they feel like they've done something wrong. They feel very shamed that they have to come see a psychologist to talk about their parenting, that they're messing up their kid, they've traumatized their kid. No, life is hard. Life is hard. And so I feel grateful that I can get myself up and out the door and look halfway decent in the morning. The fact that you got up, had something to eat, and got other people out the door, you're incredible. You're incredible. My favorite thing is to go to an airport and see a mother or a father with children sitting at the gate. I'm like, I don't know how you did it. I barely got myself here. And the fact that you got these humans here and the gate with their juice pop is amazing to me. Like, that is incredible. So every day is a challenge for all of us. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, what we want is to get up and have a good day at work. We want our kids to get up, get dressed, have breakfast, go to school, learn something, meet some friends, come home, do homework, have dinner, and go to bed. Did that happen to you? Probably not. For me, my alarm might not have gone off. There would have been traffic. I had a stain on my outfit. Someone said something mean to me, or my patients are running late, or I'm running late. So all these things happen to me. The same thing's going to happen to a second grader or a ninth grader. And I have experiences with my colleagues at work. Your child is going to school or preschool with a whole bunch of people that they don't live with.
Absolutely.
And they have experiences of that as well. And so having a bit of space and grace, this moment in time to breathe through humanity and look at your child's face and say, gosh, I love you, and you're driving me crazy, or I'm driving myself crazy, and yet it's Wednesday. So we got to navigate through that day and see what the next day brings.
So what I heard in that is not only recognizing that you're doing a good job, whatever you're doing it to the best of your ability.
Right.
So having some grace for yourself and allowing yourself to make mistakes, that you're not going to be perfect. And so there's always going to be people that have an expectation of you or of your child, and you may not always live up to that, and that's okay.
Yes. Yes. And I don't want to be naive. And I would never, of course, child abuse happens. Horrible things happen all the time to people. And we are mandated reporters when that needs to happen. Teachers are mandated reporters when that needs to happen. But I also don't want parents to feel like that's a death sentence. If they make a horrible mistake, there are agencies and support systems to get them back on track. So it's not the end of life. It's just part of life. And not everybody does it well that way, but there's always an agency or support system to help. So if your kid has to go into foster care and you have to go get some therapy or some training or something, those are unique situations, and not everything that we're going to talk about today, because basically parenting is just a jungle gym, and making it through the day feels exhausting for everybody.
And that's good to hear. As a parent, it's good to hear that other parents feel that way.
Right.
You know, you see the parents that are walking around you and they look perfect. They look really great. But to know that just because in that snippet, in that moment, you know, you see the mom with the 4 kids and they're all sitting perfectly, coloring, while your kids are over here, tearing their hair out or tearing someone else's hair out.
Yes.
That to know that happens to everyone.
Yes. Everyone. So
that is a comfort.
Good.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So what would be your number 2 thing for parents to know?
That development happens in stages. And so we know that your child is growing, but what a 4-month-old can do and what a 2-year-old can do, what a 6-year-old can do are very different. And so adjusting your expectations on what that person can do. A 2-year-old will really try to help you with laundry and not do a great job. A 9-year-old should probably learn how to fold some clothes. And a 16-year-old should probably be washing their clothes. So adjusting your expectations to the whole point of parenting is developing a good human to be out in the community, to be an asset, not a deficit, right? So how to understand, and a lot of that comes from how we were raised. Were we raised with chores? Were we raised with allowances? Were we raised with strengths and weaknesses, and how that was all highlighted because you and your partner, or if you're alone, whatever you're coming in with is what information you have, and then all the information that's given back to you, right? So
looking at the values, like what are your values? What are the values that you want this person to grow up to display?
yes,
And what does that value look like in a 2-year-old? What does
Yes.
it look like in a 5-year-old?
Yes.
What does it look like in a 16-year-old?
Yes.
And you may or you may not be looking back at, okay, well, if I had that value when I was 16, what did that look like in me? And it may or may not look like that for this person.
yes,
But what I'm hearing you say is be clear on what values you have and which ones you want to impart to your child
yes,
so that they can have them as well and display them as well. So, is kindness a value that's important to you? Is that something that you want to see in this person when they're 30? So how do I help them learn it now?
right.
And so do you have some great ideas on
Yeah.
how we do that, how we then help our people learn those values when they're little so that they'll display them when they're older?
Yeah, I love that. So I find that we often speak with assumptions. So we just assume that the word kindness is understood. We assume that the word integrity is understood. We assume that the word compassion is understood. So I think the first thing is define it for your family. Sit down with your family and say, what are something that we would like to value? We value kindness. We value humor. We value honesty, our respect. So what are those? And define it for a 2-year-old to metabolize. So that might mean that you actually have to look up the word yourself because you're just coming with a definition that you've been working on. But something I've been doing in my own personal life is the words power, purpose, and integrity mean something to me. So I've been trying to look at what the word means in the dictionary and then how to live that out.
And so I like that. I like that. Look at what the word means. But to me, that also means have an example.
Correct.
Yeah. So be able to give an example that a 2-year-old can understand.
Yes.
And that would morph as the child grows.
Yes.
And then has other life experiences that you can draw from. So you're not just giving them examples from you, you're giving them examples from their own experience.
Yes. So a great way, like for a 2-year-old, we're going to work on kindness. And how do we show kindness? We show that with hugs. We show that with kind words. We show that with waiting in line. We show that with soft touches, petting, soft touches.
Being gentle.
Often at 2 or 3, there's a tradition where sometimes there's another baby that's involved, and there's a lot of feelings for a 2 and 3-year-old, and kindness is really hard when they have lost that first child place where they're dethroned and like mom and dad are now preoccupied. And so how to be kind to this new person that they may say they wanted. Yeah, I want a brother and sister until that person's there forever and they don't go home ever. And they don't come out of the womb playing with them. They come out of the womb floppy and fragile and weird. And then the 2-year-old's like, well, I don't want you. Let's take you back to the store. So that's not kind. And mom and dad get a little frustrated because they're not understanding that 2-year-old has a lot of feelings about that. So how to harness the value of kindness and then distill it down to some actionable task that you can ask your child or yourself to do.
Okay. So I think what you just brought up is a really important piece of raising people when there are multiples, when there's siblings involved. So sibling rivalry is a real thing. There's a reason we have a word for it, right?
Yes.
So I think you gave a really good example of how you manage that when it's a new child and there's maybe a toddler and an infant. You know, my children are 5 years apart in age. And now that one is 6 and one is 11, you know, it's still there.
Yeah.
There's still the same exact example that you gave. I wanted them at first, but now
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
You're still here?
You're still
Oy,
here.
when are you leaving?
Exactly. So how do you manage that as they grow? And maybe the challenges are a little bit different. Maybe it's not, this thing just lays here and doesn't do anything all day, or it keeps me up at night, or whatever it is. And maybe they're still the same things. Maybe, as they get older, maybe they're, in their teenage years, but yet they're still doing that same kind of stuff. So how do you manage it as they grow? One of the values that we have is in our family is that your family's going to be there forever. So we're going to be friends.
Nice. Yeah, okay.
And so trying to help them to manage that friendship is something that we work on intentionally in our family.
Yeah.
And so what would be some recommendations that you might have for parents that are really struggling with how to help maybe older children, not maybe babies, but older children learn how to value one another?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And boy, oh, howdy, that's hard. So I had mentioned earlier about developmentally understanding where your child is in a physical development and a mental development as well. So that will be, you might want to get out a parenting book and look at what ages and stages bring. There's books called Ages and Stages of what to expect from a 6-month-old, a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, because toddlers are like blenders without lids on. So their neurological development is, their frontal lobe is not yet there. So their executive functioning, their problem-solving skills are not fully compatible. So when you have siblings, first of all, I think it's really important for parents to realize that if they are both biologically yours and your partners and they come from the same DNA structure, that does not mean they're the same person. Even if they're twins, even if they're identical twins, they will have differences. And so just because you have 2 boys does not mean they're the same. Yeah. And it's really convenient to put them both in basketball because we need to be honest with our bandwidth and our limitations. I can only afford one sport. So they're both going to do basketball. Well, one really likes to paint and one really hates basketball. So what do you do as a parent? So learning the personalities of your child, individual time with each child. And I try to recommend parents doing like 30 minutes a week. And what I have them do is like get a calendar, something visual. And I tell the kid, like, what's your 2 favorite colors? And they're like, blue and green. Okay, so mom can be blue and dad can be green. And you put that on the calendar and he knows or she knows I'm getting 30 minutes on Monday with mom, 30 minutes alone with dad on Wednesday. Maybe brother's favorite colors are orange and purple. He gets those days, and then we have a family day. So having set aside time for the parent to know the child, and then having sibling time. So doing tasks together for siblings, problem solving. Like, here's a puzzle. You guys are going to have to figure out a way to build this, and you're going to have to communicate with each other. And I'm going to take away saying the word no. You can't say the word no.
I like that.
You're going to have to do this communication without saying the word no. You say, I'm not sure, or that's curious. I don't know if I like that, but whatever happens, the task has to be completed and you can't say the word no. So you make it into a game, make it into a little challenge. I think I like compliments. So when brother's in the room, like, hey, your brother's kind of funny, huh? He really makes me laugh when he makes his faces. What kind of things does he do to make you laugh? And then compliment the other one. He's really sensitive. You know, he's really kind when he comes up and you're really sad. He gives you hugs. I really like it when he gives me hugs. Do you like it when he gives me hugs? What else do you like about your brother?
I like that. So you're making it very, very clear on how to value the other person. You're pointing out things about them that you value. You're helping the other person to see that these are things that they might actually value about them, and giving them an opportunity to say if it is that or not, or if there's something else there. So you're giving them very salient direction
Yes.
and an example
Yes.
of how to do it.
I feel like, isn't that what I need hand holding at times, you know? And I'm an adult. And so if I need that, I imagine my 12-year-old's going to need that. I imagine my 18-year-old's going to need that. I still need that from my mother. So I feel like parenting is a lifelong journey. And when you have adult children, like my mother has with me, I still call her for advice. I still call my dad for advice. I still call mentors and people in my life. I look to you, brilliant psychologist, for advice. So helping our kids know that we're one part of the solution, but their sibling is as well.
That's a beautiful way of stating it, that the sibling then becomes, or has the opportunity to become, part of the expert pool or the resource pool.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
And they have their parents, right? They're like, especially if they're older, like, mom's not going to listen to whining. Let me tell you, I tried. I tried when I was 4. It didn't work. So I would try something else. You know, she really likes this. I'd really try dad. I would not ask dad for that in the morning. He's not a morning person. So, like, they are watching each other. So how to navigate getting what they want with each other. And so that could even be a challenge. Like, you know, if you want this, then how are you going to get it? Like, what are some things that you guys can come up together to get you to go to pizza and a movie?
I like that. So that could be the challenge.
Yeah.
That could be the challenge that they
Yeah.
work on.
Yeah.
I like it. So what's the number 3 thing that you can think of that parents really need to know in order to help their children become the people they want them to be, that they value?
I think having open conversation with the child about their life. Oftentimes, we just make kids do things. We put them in the car and we take them to the grocery store. We take them to the beach. We take them wherever we're going to do. But there's never a conversation about, what do you want on this vacation? Or, I'm hearing that 3rd grade's really hard. Can you tell me what's going on? They may have a lot to say about the teacher or where they're sitting in the room, that maybe they're not misbehaving. Maybe there's something environmentally going on with them. Maybe they really hate Pop-Tarts and you've been feeding them that every morning for the last week because it's easy for you, but they haven't been eating their breakfast. So they go to school hungry and cranky and they're acting out. And you as a parent thought you were doing everything you were supposed to be doing because you thought they were eating breakfast, but they weren't. So I think continue to have a conversation, not that they're the boss, but they have experiences of their world.
And they have opinions.
Yes.
And it's important that we be validated, that our opinion be listened to. And it doesn't matter if we're 2 or if we're 15, we still have an opinion about something.
Yeah.
And I think going back to what you were talking about earlier with there being developmental stages, and so that's going to change. It's going to
Yes.
morph. It's going to grow as they grow. So, you know, the thing we're taking their opinion on or we're asking their opinion on is going to be very different when they're 2 years old than when they're 15.
Yes. And to learn, like, you will enjoy your children at different times. So toddlers come with their own craziness, but they're fun. 9 and 10 are a lot more fun sometimes than 14. And there's a grieving process that happens with parents that the kid may give you more of your opinion than you want, or put it in a way that is not respectful or agreeable, or they'll rebel. But to look at that behavior as information versus a personality deficit, that they're not bad people because they're sassing you or disrespecting you or cussing at you. There's something that they're communicating. They're communicating a frustration, they're communicating a displeasure, they're communicating something, and you can handle it. I always tell parents, like, you've lived more winters. Like, you can figure this out. You were older than them. You got it. You can figure this out. So having open communication with ability to breathe through the response, because their response may be different than what you were anticipating, for sure.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that transition from, you tell me how to say this, what would be the appropriate vocabulary for it, but from childhood into adolescence, from that young, earlier portion of life to that next
Like
stage.
that tween phase?
Where you're starting to individuate and become your own person, where you're starting to form more ideas and thoughts and opinions about the world and who they are and who you are as their parent, and how do we navigate that? And we have very little time, so let's get as much in as we can.
So I do like the idea of, I tell parents, children from like 0 to 9 or 10, like you here, face to face, in their face, all excited. 10 or 11, they want you side to side. So they want you there, they want you to be involved, but they want you to ask, because that's when peers start becoming really important. So you want to be the cool mom. You want to be the mom that they want to invite their friends over for the slumber party, or to get the phone call when they make bad decisions. You want to be that parent. So getting to know your kids' friends, like being the house that your kids come to. You also want to be savvy about social media. And there's tons of little ways that adolescents and tweens are getting involved in Snapchat and Instagram. They're not really into Facebook anymore. There's other things that they're getting into that you need to educate yourself on, and decide when you want electronics to be a part of your home, because they will be.
Yeah, that's a huge issue right now.
Yes. Like, what age is a good age? What mechanisms can they have? And parents also need to know, like, if you say no, you're like, no, 13 is when I'm going to give my kid a phone. That does not mean they can't message on all the other devices that you've given them.
Right.
And their friends will let them know how to do that. So if you are choosing to be ignorant, then you're also allowing your child to walk into a world where pornography is there, where pedophiles are there, where other people can talk to them, because you've made a boundary and you're like, no, we're not doing this until 13. That's fine, but you also need to understand that whatever devices you enter into your home come with an opportunity for the world to be into your home as well.
Yeah. So being knowledgeable about parental controls, knowing how to use them well, talking with your children about safety on the internet. What other kinds of things?
Talking to your your children's friends' parents. I think something that I get my families to do is, like, can you organize play dates? Can you organize activities? So kids don't always have phones when they're in elementary and middle school. So how does a kid do a play date? How do they can't drive. So, and you want your kids to hang out with the good kids. Well, ask the teacher, who's 3 people in class that's a really good influence on my kid if they're struggling.
I like that a lot. I like that, pulling in the teacher as they are part of your child's team. They're part of their, that resource that you were talking about earlier. So using that resource, not just as a way to make sure that your children are doing well academically, but also as a way of making sure that your children are adjusting socially well.
Yes, and giving them a chance to thrive. So sometimes kids who act out aggressively, they're like the bully. Well, there's a reason for that. So Is that because they're getting picked on, or that they're not feeling competent in certain things? So giving kids leadership tasks in school often will boost that self-esteem for them. And so having them pass out papers, having them be the teacher support, going to the office with them, just giving them a little bit more one-on-one time gives that kid opportunities to kind of feel better. If your kid's shy, having the teacher say, oh, they tend to gravitate to these two kids. Can you ask that here's my cell phone number. Can you ask that? Give that to the kid to ask the mom to call me so I can organize a play date. I really recommend one-on-one play dates and not a group of play dates at first, because something happens when you get 3 or more kids that kind of get weird. They can pair off and one can isolate. So odd numbers can be tricky, especially with adolescents.
Yeah. Joy, that is amazing information that you have given us, and I don't want it to stop now. I think we have way more to talk about, so we're going to go ahead and stop right there. I'm going to ask that our audience join us back and with our next episode, because we're going to continue this discussion and learn a lot more about how to parent our children well. So thank you for being with us.